Next, G7 foreign ministers meeting in Canada to discuss moves to halt the Russia-Ukraine war. But US Secretary of State Marco Rubio shrugged off questions about a prospective US takeover of the host country, Canada. Rubio headed to Charlevoix, Quebec, after meeting Ukrainian officials in the Saudi city of Jeddah to discuss an initial ceasefire, as we have been reporting. He said he wanted the Club of Industrial Democracies to recognize that the United States has done a good thing for the world after Kyiv backed a US proposed 30-day truce with Russia. Let's bring in our correspondent in Ottawa, Christopher Guly, for more on this one. Chris, tell us, what should we expect at this G7?
Well, I think you're going to hear Secretary Rubio talk about Donald Trump's America First foreign policy. Ukraine is going to be top of the agenda, no doubt. Soon after that meltdown between Volodymyr Zelensky, Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance at the end of February, Justin Trudeau released a statement reaffirming Canada's standing with Ukraine. Canada's home to the largest Ukrainian diaspora in the world, with more than 1.2 million people. So and was the first country to recognize Ukrainian independence in 1991. So Ukraine has been top of mind in terms of foreign policy here in Canada since the war with Russia began 3 years ago. So Ukraine will absolutely top that agenda. And you're quite right. I think for one day, perhaps there'll be a respite in terms of annexation and tariff talks, at least when it comes to the official U.S. delegation at Charlevoix.
Indeed, the whole idea of the annexation of Canada, of course, seems incredibly outlandish, but it does seem to be very much part and parcel of a certain Trump, America First, to give it a phrase, policy. The issue of Ukraine, as you pointed out, is going to be a very, very large issue. Trump already calling for Russia to be admitted back into this industrial group of nations. Of course, that's something to be discussed on many levels. But the issue of tariffs, Chris, is something that I think is bound to be discussed at length.
Absolutely. Melanie Joly, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, at a news conference earlier today, talking about the retaliatory tariffs from Canada, talked about the fact that she will be meeting with her European counterparts. And G7 at the G7 tomorrow, France, UK, Germany, there will be that discussion because Trump obviously has his eyes set on beyond Canada and at this point a global situation with regard to tariff. I think you're going to see that Canada is going to be having conversations on the margins of the summit to talk about strengthening the alliance with Europe. We saw that again with Ukraine when Justin Trudeau flew to London for that summit, and he was the only non-European leader there. So given what's happening south of the border here, our traditional alliances with the US are crumbling.
Christopher Guly in Ottawa, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us.